right, let's talk about Ozempic. You've heard the name, right? It's part of this new wave of drugs that are absolutely everywhere, promising to solve one of our biggest health problems. But is it really the magic pill everyone says it is, or is there a darker side we're kind of ignoring? In this explainer, we're going to look at both sides, the incredible promise and the pretty disturbing risks. So the story kind of starts in a weird place. Picture this. Author Johann Hari is at a Hollywood party, just after all the lockdowns. You'd expect people to have, gained a little weight, right? But what he saw was the exact opposite. He said everyone looked gaunt, like their own Snapchat filters had come to life. Everyone was suddenly super sharp, super thin. And he's thinking, what in the world is going on here? Well, that one strange observation cracked open a huge secret. Turns out there was this new miracle drug making the rounds in Hollywood, and it was about to go mainstream in a big way. So, how does this stuff actually work? To get it, you gotta understand this one tiny hormone in your body. It's called GLP-1, and it's actually pretty simple. When you eat food, your gut releases it. Think of it like a little messenger that runs up to your brain and basically taps it on the shoulder and says, "Hey, we're good down here. You can stop eating now." It's totally natural, and it's how our bodies are supposed to know when we're full. Okay, but here's where things get wild. This is the key difference between what your body does and what the drug does. Your natural GLP-1, it hangs around for just a few minutes, sends its little "I'm full" message, and then it's gone. But the drug version, that's a whole different ballgame. It's a synthetic version that sticks around in your system for an entire week. So it's not a gentle tap on the shoulder anymore. It's more like a constant screaming alarm in your brain that says you're full, don't eat, 24/7. And as you can imagine, the results of that constant "I'm full" signal are just staggering. I mean, let's be real. There's a reason people are calling this a life-saving miracle. Let's dig into the promise, because it is incredible. Get this. On average, someone taking a drug like Ozempic or Wegovy for a year loses 15% of their body weight. Just think about that for a second. For so many people, that's a number they thought was impossible, something they could never ever hit with diet and exercise alone. And believe it or not, that's not even the whole story. The next generation of these drugs is already here, and they're even more powerful. They're showing an average weight loss of up to 24%. I mean, wow. We're talking about numbers that are getting really, really close to what you see with major bariatric surgery. And this is where it gets really important. This isn't just about looking thinner. This is about living longer. The data, which lines up pretty well with what we see after gastric surgery, is just jaw-dropping. We're talking about a massive reduction in the risk of dying from some of our biggest killers. Your risk of a fatal heart attack? Down 56%. Cancer? Down 60%. And look at this. Your risk from diabetes-related issues plummets by 92%. It's a huge deal. Okay, so that's the incredible promise. It sounds almost too good to be true, right? Well, here's where the story takes a turn. Because for all these amazing benefits, there is a long and pretty disturbing list of risks that are now starting to come to light. And before we even get into the specifics of Ozempic, we just have to talk about history for a second. Because let's be honest, we've been here before. Every single time a miracle weight loss drug has come along, it has ended in absolute disaster. Back in the 30s, people were taking a drug that literally cooked them from the inside out and made them go blind. Then in the 90s, you had fen-phen, which caused massive heart and lung damage. The track record is, well, it's pretty terrifying. Now, to be fair, these new drugs are different. They're a whole new class, but that doesn't mean they're risk-free, not by a long shot. There are a lot of concerns, and we can basically break them down into 4 big buckets: the physical health stuff, the psychological impact, some really practical problems, and then, well, all the scary things we just don't know yet. So let's start with a really practical one. What happens if you ever decide to stop taking it? Well, the clinical trials are crystal clear on this. Within just 1 year of stopping the drug, the average person gains back about 70% of all the weight they lost. Let that sink in. This isn't a cure. For most people, it's a life sentence. Okay, what about the direct physical risks? Well, there are a few, but this one really stands out. Studies show that taking these drugs can increase your risk of pancreatitis, which is this incredibly painful inflammation of your pancreas, by 9 times. 9. Now, pancreatitis is rare to begin with, but multiplying your risk by 9 is a really big deal. And it doesn't stop there. A really big study out of France looked at diabetics who had been on these types of drugs for years. What they found is pretty scary.
a 50 to 75% increased risk of developing thyroid cancer. I mean, anytime you see a number like that linked to cancer, you have to stop and take it seriously.
Then there's the psychological side, which is something people don't talk about enough. You know how many of us use food for comfort? A bad day, you eat some ice cream, right? Well, this drug just turns that off. You lose the desire to comfort eat. And as one expert explained it, the drug isn't causing your anxiety or depression, but it's making it impossible for you to hide from it. It's making the problem visible because you can't just eat your feelings away anymore.
All of this kind of leads to a much bigger, more fundamental question, doesn't it? Why do so many of us even need a drug like this? Why are we struggling so much with food in the first place? To answer that, we need to zoom out, way out, and look at the world we've built around ourselves.
Yeah, there's actually a scientific term for it, an obesogenic environment. It's a fancy way of saying that our world, our society, is basically designed to make us obese. I mean, think about it. Ultra-processed junk food is everywhere. It's cheap, it's easy, and it's advertised to us nonstop. Meanwhile, real, healthy food, it's often more expensive and way harder to get. There was this one experiment with rats that just explains it perfectly. So you give these rats a normal, healthy diet, and they're fine. They eat when they're hungry, they stop when they're full, they stay a healthy weight. But then you introduce junk food, stuff like cheesecake and bacon. The rats become completely obsessed. They just gorge themselves until they're obese. But here's the truly terrifying part. When the scientists took the junk food away, the rats refused to go back to their healthy food. They literally chose to starve themselves instead. That's how badly the junk food had rewired their brains. And that, right there, is the whole argument in a nutshell. As Professor Michael Lowe put it, we've created an artificial solution to an artificial problem. Our food environment is the artificial problem. It has completely hijacked our natural hunger signals, and now this drug is the artificial solution we've invented to try and fix it. So, where do we go from here? Now that this drug is out in the world, we as a whole society are basically standing at a massive fork in the road. And there are two very, very different paths we can take. Okay, look at path number one, the Japan model. What did they do? They decided to fix the environment. They totally reformed their food culture, they put nutritionists in schools, they got rid of ultra-processed foods at lunch, and the result? Their obesity rate is just 4.5%. Now look at path number two, the Western model. We've basically left our obesogenic environment the way it is, and instead we're trying to fix the individual with a drug. The result in the US? An obesity rate of 42.5%. The difference is just staggering.
You see, this is way bigger than just a personal decision about whether or not to take a shot. The impact this is going to have on our whole society, analysts are comparing it to the invention of the smartphone. Seriously, they're saying it's going to be that transformative and that unpredictable. It's going to change everything, from how much fuel airplanes use to the stock prices of companies that make knee replacements. It's huge. And so we're left with one final and, I think, crucial question. By turning to these drugs, are we actually fixing the problem, or are we just putting a very expensive, very risky Band-Aid on the symptom of a much, much bigger problem, a broken food system? That's the real question we all have to ask ourselves now.